So thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm going to have AC here present in just a minute and give you a little bit of an introduction. So AC has been teaching Spanish as a second language for over 14 years. She is an IB educator and is passionate about training and empowering educators to deliver research-informed, inclusive, and pedagogically sound curriculum. She's equally providing comprehensible and engaging stories that will connect with students and facilitating language acquisition in both Spanish and French. She's authored several comprehensible input novels for all levels of Spanish and hopes that her novels will not only entertain and facilitate level 2 acquisition, but that students will learn more about themselves, about life, and about how to make more informed decisions. So you can go ahead and start, AC. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for making it tonight. I know that we are in about you guys in a whirlwind of a week. So I just want to acknowledge that. I know, like, I normally don't do a lot of things on a school night, especially after school. I'm usually sitting in front of my couch, just like numb, processing the day. So I really do appreciate you guys coming and showing up. And I am planning for a pretty like dynamic session and help you share with you guys what I've been doing in the classroom, and hopefully you can take away some practical. So I do have a slide deck, and I'm going to and then they're going to kind of push all those things out to you all. So I'm going to share my screen, and unfortunately, because of my broadband, I'm going to have to turn my video off, but you will hear me, okay? I'll be the little voice in your head, okay? All right, let me just take the video off. Okay, you guys can still hear me, right? Yay. All right, if there is any type of issue, yes?
Yep, you can still hear you.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm just making sure. Okay. Andrew, just let me know if, if something happens and. So this session is about seamless strategies for embedding vocabulary and grammar into your lessons. And just to expand on what Andrew said, so I've actually been teaching for 20 years. This is my 20th year teaching. I'm a Spanish teacher. I work in Chicago. And in addition to that, I have keynoted events. I'm a storyteller, CI author and presenter. And I really identify with the whole storytelling thing, because not only do I write stories, but I always have a story for my students, like just life stories, like things that have happened to me. And they just get so excited every time they say something and we're in class. I'll say, "Oh, I got a story for you." And they're like, "Ooh, story time." So I definitely identify with being, a storyteller. These are some of my books, not all of them. So I do write books in Spanish, and then I get them adapted to French. I have a book in German as well. And it's just been a great sort of ride these last 7 years of so glad I'm able to enrich my students' lives, but also the lives of other students as well, and to make teachers' lives easier. All right, so I just kind of want to frame what we're going to do today. I'm not going to like read this whole paragraph, but just like highlighted just the big ideas. And really, it is about exploring and leveraging vocabulary learning in the classroom. I do acknowledge that a lot of the vocabulary that we learn, especially that incidental vocabulary, it comes from reading. So I get that. But there's also this side where when we have sort of like maybe thematic units that don't necessarily include a novel, it doesn't necessarily include a lot of like reading up front. Like, what are some strategies? What are some things that we can do to really help students to absorb not only the vocabulary, but those grammatical structures? How do we make the most of authentic resources, and how do we combine those things with comprehensible input? So that is kind of what I want to talk about today. And my little secret is, if any of you follow my Facebook group, Teaching from the Trenches, who said, "I'm going to be there today." So if you follow me, you already know that I am all about simplicity. Okay. Simple is better. And the best activities to me, and I've gone to a lot of PDs, I've gone to a lot of conferences. I am a very simple person. Okay. And I like things that are easy to set up, to explain, to implement. If I go somewhere and I learn a strategy and I get confused, then the probability of me sharing that strategy, no matter how awesome it is going to be not going to be too high. So, hello? Oh. Oh, I think someone needs to mute their mic. Um,
Yeah.
but hello, little kid. Hi, how are you? So they have to be easy to implement and just integrated. Towards I really like sort of milking the cow, so to speak. So I like activities that I can just get a lot from. Like they're not just one dimensional, but I can use them over the course of several activities in a lesson. And that's kind of what I want to, present today. All right, so the first one, we're just going to jump right into it. The first activity is just leveraging online learning on platforms. And so I know a lot of us use Quizlet, we use Kahoot, we use Blue, we use all of these really great learning platforms. And I think like in the beginning when they came out, they really did sort of gamify learning, and a lot of the students enjoy using them in class. And what I've noticed just over the years, because a lot of times we use this for differentiation, and then my idea is always, well, if they're always connected to like technology, they're always connected to gaming, doing all these things, and is it really differentiation? It's kind of like the same thing that they're doing at home. So that's kind of my little, sidebar, like resistance type thing. But we all use these platforms. And so one of the things that I started doing a couple of years ago is I started creating activities well with these online platforms, so students can kind of have that interactivity. They could have sort of that gamified um, experience, but then at the same time, they were able to sort of deepen their learning. And what I mean by that is like our students, like they, or at least like I know my students for sure, they just know how to game the system. And sometimes we're like, oh, this is such a great tool, and we give it to sit there and flashcards, and something comes up like, oh, you're done with this, or you've completed this. And I just started noticing that, and I didn't really feel that the technology that was supposed to really improve or help improve like learning outcomes, I didn't feel it was doing its job. So then I kind of created like a little addendum. So whenever I do these in class, I have like a little addendum. So this kind of goes beyond like the flashcards, and it helps the students to sort of deepen their understanding, and it's a little bit hands-on. So with whatever vocabulary, like target vocabulary list that my students have. So if we're doing a unit on civil rights or human rights, whatever we're doing, I always have some type of vocabulary list, and I do still use these platforms. But here's how I kind of like help them to go a little bit deeper with this. So this is activity that I created and I use with my students. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can kind of like see each and every part and how they kind of come together. Okay. So whenever we have new vocabulary, the first thing is I do allow them, like we can't use Quizlet anymore at our school because of like some privacy things. So I have had to be creative with how I use Blooket for just like them learning the words, not testing themselves, but just like learning the words. That's like a whole nother little segment. But they do have like a vocabulary list. And with this list, there's a few different things that they're doing just with the vocabulary. So we're going to kind of zoom into one. And this is in Spanish. I have it in English over here just for teachers who are not like teaching Spanish. So the first activity that they'll do, and this was when we were using Quizlet. So I haven't updated that language, but I mean I still use online. I just don't use Quizlet. So the first thing that they do is as they're reviewing the whatever platform, as they're reviewing, they are going through and they're kind of categorizing words. And what I love about this is it really slows them down, and it really helps them to think like multidimensionally about the word. They're not just like looking at the word, looking at the meaning and not doing anything about it, but they're actually thinking about, oh, well, this word seems like an easy word or a cognate, or this word is a more difficult word. So I have this series of questions that I have students answer as they're going through their list. So the first one, they have to write, a difficult word, and that's going to be a word that's not a cognate, a word that that just looking at it like morphologically, it looks like a word that's just going to be difficult to kind of retain and difficult to use. Okay, so it's something that's just outside of like whatever their sort of their kind of ability is, so to speak. The next one is going to be an easy word. I'm sorry, the first one is an easy word. Sorry, the first one is an easy word. The second one is like a difficult word. And then, I kind of like play around a little bit, like, okay, well, give me an interesting word and tell me what it means. What's una palabra chocante? Like, what's something that really like stumps you? Like, what's a word that like has that umph? And then later, they're going to talk about what they want to learn. And kind of say this is my sneaky structure. I always like to include a structure or vocabulary that's a vocabulary word that is very common for students that they don't use a lot, so that they get that repetition and just get comfortable using it. So that's kind of explaining what these 5 things are here. And then here's the example. So again, this is something that you can use. You can integrate with what you're doing already. You can add to this. It doesn't necessarily have to be an easy word, a difficult word. It could be something that you want to kind of like personalize for your unit. Or I keep it like this because I don't like to reinvent the wheel, and I try not to personalize too many activities, because then I have like too many like Google files. So I kind of keep this with each one. But it does help them, like I said, to sort of slow down and think a little bit more about the words. So this is the first part of the sheet, the activity. So then the second part is I have them sort of draw out a word. And this is really cool because it says here, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, that this is your masterpiece. Don't share what your drawing is with anyone. It's a secret. So other students are going to see what they have drawn, and it's going to be related to one of the words on the list. It doesn't have to be from the first 5 words. And then they are going to go around and have students guess what the word is. And this is so much fun because, again, if I were just to give them a Quizlet set or a booklet set, like absorbing the words, but now they're like being a little bit more interactive. They're having more contact and more experience with the word. And then now they're bringing in their peers, and they're sort of asking their peers to sort of figure out based on the drawing what the word is. So this is really fun because students can kind of go around class and they ask, and it's really nice to see them kind of get into it. The last activity from the sheet that I just shared is going to means predictions.
Hey, AC, don't want to interrupt you, but your audio is cutting out a little bit.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't know what to do about. I did switch my internet, so I'm like on the best internet right now. So I don't know what to do about that. Can you hear most of what I'm saying?
Seems like it. It's just every couple sentences, it's getting cut
Okay.
for yes, a few seconds.
Okay. Okay. I'll see if I can slow down. I don't know if that helps. So the last this document is predicciones, which students will be making predictions. And this is just taking the list, looking at the list, and then making predictions about what they think the unit is going to be about. And it says here for them to in their prediction, they have to use 3 of the words. And it's really interesting because some kids, they go a little further. They create like a little story with some of the words, and it's very interesting. This activity has gone to like conspiratorial places. Kids come up with little conspiracies depending on what the list is. So the takeaway from this is it's the experience that's being layered with the learning. And I think that is sort of what really sort of that reinforces their connection with the words, their connection with the unit, and ultimately their interest. All right, sorry about this going in and out. Okay, let's see. All right. So what's on the other side was this is just the sort of taking the words and embedding them into questions and personalized questions for the students. So this is sort of a PQA, like a personalized question activity, but it's just very specific with the target vocabulary and some of the target structure. So if you look at the directions that I'm giving students, they have two things to do. They have to respond to the questions, they have to recycle that target word. And in addition to that, we actually go around, we do a speaking activity, and it says at the top that they have to talk for at least 20 seconds. And I do have them, this is 20 seconds, and they're sort of talking about the questions and they're incorporating the vocabulary as well.
So you cut out for most of that
I
last
will say,
sentence,
okay,
actually, if you want to repeat
no,
it.
actually, I stopped because now, okay, I see
Oh,
that
okay.
I get a message that says internet unstable. So when I see that, I just pause. So yeah, I stopped before the last one. Okay, so we have this is just another activity that we can do now. I love coming up with these type of activities. I love doing this. This actually de-stresses me, but some teachers, this is not their thing. They love doing games, they love doing other things. So this is where you can use AI to generate questions based on the vocabulary, and then you can tweak them to however you want. Um, and yeah, and it's it's a pretty quick process. I just think you have to go through and maybe just pare the language down a little bit. One thing I will say about circumlocution is that I love when students use circumlocution, but when there is a word for something and it's something that's related to what I prefer them to learn that word. And that's kind of my message to them. I think circumlocution is really good for when you just don't know a word. But if it's something that we're learning and we're talking about that's part of the richness of the unit, then I want them to be able to use those words. All right, Andrew, how was that? Did you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think that pretty much got through.
Yay! Okay, I'll pay attention. There's like a little notification I get sometimes. Let me just say, side note, I do have a new computer right beside me, and I didn't realize that the Zoom wasn't downloaded. So yes, I will be using that computer in the future. With my Mac and Zoom, I don't know what the relationship is, but it's pretty rocky. All right, so here's another quick, this is another activity that I do with my students. This one could be used in all levels, and you just kind of have to, I call this, what do I call this? Oh, media naranja, which is like find like your soulmate in Spanish. It translates to kind of soulmate or alma gemela. I forgot how to say alma gemela in English. Um, what this consists well, let me and how you can modify. So if you have a class like a lower level class, then they don't have to do like the definition part, but they could use word reference and they can do like the synonym, the antonym, work together to write a phrase. So this is how I do this activity. I give them this little sheet. You can make it. I have a link to one that I did many years ago, but you can create this sheet. And I give, first you want to make index cards of vocabulary. So I usually have 30 kids in my class. So I'll make index cards. I'll make 30 and it's just like 15 words. So I have, words repeated, like words in there twice. Um, and then afterwards, I shuffle the deck and do all of that, pass them out to students. So as they come in, I give them a card, and their job is to find their media naranja, okay, which is like their other half. Once they find this person, they sit down and they fill out the information together. So they write the word that they have. If it's a level 3 class or above, like those are mostly classes that I'm teaching this year, I have them write out the definition, use word reference, and also use a little bit of just their own kind of vocabulary. They do synonym, antonym, and then they write like a sentence about it. So the cool thing about this is number one, they're moving around class. They're actually coming in contact with other words as well as so this is another opportunity for them to like see whatever the key vocabulary is. They're working with their partner, so this is super collaborative. I call this quick, fun, and cerebral because they do have to come up with a definition, and it is very interactive. I love the definitions that the students come up with because they look on word reference, but then they have to add a little bit of like their own sauce to it. And I feel that this is where they really step up. So what do I do with these? Sometimes I'll hang them around class. Like I'll put them like the way that our class is arranged, I can put them there's like a little part on their desks. And I just kind of like, flag them around class. And they have the words there. If you have multiple classes, then, obviously you want to pick like the most, the most legible ones to kind of make like a vocabulary wall. So this is another cool activity that my kids really enjoy doing. Okay, so now we're going to kind of shift a little bit and talk about authentic resources and how to reinforce grammar and vocabulary. And before we get into these resources, I just want to kind of point out that using authentic resources in the classroom can be a bit of a challenge, and for a number of reasons. I think a lot of times, depending on the authentic resource, it is really meant for native speakers. And so because of that, teachers have to do a lot of sort of not adapting the resource per se, but creating activities that provide an access point for students. And that can just be overwhelming, especially if you have multiple preps, if you're, teaching, depending on the content that you're teaching. So I just want to show you a kind of a quick way that I use authentic resources to reinforce grammar and all right. So here are just some of the obstacles Okay, I did stop, Andrew, just so you know. Here are some of the obstacles that I want. I look, as soon as I see that little note, I pause. Some of the obstacles to using authentic resources in the classroom. So kind of what I mentioned already, like the level mismatch. You have resources that are created for native speakers, and they do pose a challenge sometimes. And if any of you are learning a different language right now, other than a language is very vastly different from the language or languages that you speak, then you know that it's like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. Time constraints, obviously, and then sort of those cultural context gaps, just kind of working around those sometimes. Obviously, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but sometimes it can be a bit challenging. So here are 3 ways in which I curate authentic materials for class. Number 1, I call this the non-prescribed method, whenever, wherever, and whenever. So when I'm online, which tends to be a lot, to look things, I always save them. So there are a few people in my circle that they post, graphic images, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pull that and I'm going to use that as some type of resource to reinforce A, B, or C. Social media, especially with structures and thematic topics, and obviously workshops. So you are in the right place. All right, so one of the grammatical points for our unit was the present perfect tense in Spanish. I teach Spanish 4, and that is something that is covered in Spanish 4. So a lot of my students feed into either AP or dual credit. I teach dual credit Spanish, and there are, with any curriculum, there are just certain things that students have to learn. So the present perfect is one of those things in level 4 that they have to learn. And here is this is not Google necessarily, but I went to Twitter, which is now X, and I just typed in kind of structures that I wanted to use, like he visto. I think I typed in he hecho, just to see like what would come up. And I was probably going through posts, maybe not even 10 minutes, and I found some really nice posts that seem like, okay, this will be a really great thing to use in class so that I can, emphasize the use of like the present perfect and kind of talk to students about it. So here are just three examples. I'm going to pull from one and just show you like how I sort of build this out in class. And by the way, I love this actress. I've seen her in a lot of, she's a Spanish actress. I've seen her in a lot of films. I love films that have like older women like acting because, I'm like, yes, they have so much to give. And, sometimes, how the film industry is. So here is one thing you want to be careful of when, especially when on Twitter, because there were a lot of little images that I pulled that I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I didn't pay attention to their Twitter handle. And some of the Twitter handles were kind of naughty. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I saw that because I was so hyper focused on the text that I didn't really see tunnel vision with that. So with this image here are just some questions I did for the anticipatory set for students. And notice my goal here is, I don't want all the questions to really, to have the present perfect because I feel like that just doesn't feel like authentic, but I definitely want to make sure that I have a few so that students can, get see how it's used, how it's used in everyday language, and also that they can recycle and use themselves. So these are just a few questions I had, asking if they are into sports or a sports player, what sports do they play, have they had éxito, which is success in that sport, have they had to sacrifice their free time? Because I think in here this girl talks about sacrificing her free time, and then how have they triumphed in this sport, physically and also mentally. So these are kind of deep questions, but again, I am making sure I'm using this authentic resource to help them to get these, to see how the present perfect is used and also to get reps with it. And then for a follow-up activity, again, they're just reading this little bit of text. So they are extrapolating a lot. They really are. And so the first few questions are just asking like, what sport is she playing? Like, well, do you know her? I don't know. Maybe students, they keep up with these types of marathons. Maybe they know her. And then I'm asking to do to stay in her sport. And then has she been successful and has she accomplished, her goals and if she's gonna, return to the event. So these are just examples of some ways in which I'm trying to double down on the grammar structures, but also the vocabulary. All right, so I'm kind of switching gears here. So this is actually something that I did this week. Yes, this is something that I did this week. All right, take a little pause there. This is an activity. So one of the reasons why I wanted to include this is to kind of show that even though these are like different classes, but I pretty much do the same types of activities with all of my classes. This unit that I'm doing my level 4 students is based on the series Alta Mar, which is on Netflix. And we do a lot around the vocabulary. So they're getting a input from watching the series. We talk about the characters, and I did a lot around vocabulary. And here's what I'm really excited about in this sample. And I want to say most of my students did really well. I just glanced at them. I haven't graded them yet, but as I was collecting the papers and looking, I saw they use vocabulary. So here's the one thing that I did. I did not tell them. I did not in the I forgot to include the vocabulary in the rubric, but and what I mean by that is like, they don't, I'm not looking, sometimes when I give writing assignments, I'll say you have to use like 3 or 4 vocabulary words. So because, I didn't do that, and I don't know if this is like reverse psychology, I don't know what it is, but most of them had so much of the vocabulary because we could not talk about the show, we could not write about the show without using this specific vocabulary. So I really believe that like a lot of these activities where we're just like exploiting the vocabulary, that we're making sure that they are just surrounded by, the vocabulary and the structures, whether it's in the beginning activities, whether it's in small talk, whatever it is, they're sort of they're getting that input, and this is sort of the result. So here's some of the words the student used, which I was just so impressed. I'm not going to lie, even though yes, I taught them and we talked about it, but I was just so impressed at how the student used this. So it was la polizón, which is the stowaway. He used the crew, asesinato, because there was like a murder on the boat. Sospechoso, they love that word. They use it so much. And prometido. So this was about the fiance. So that is one way in which it, kind of shows up. All right. So the last thing I'm going to kind of talk about, and then I can stop the presentation and I can take questions, is how does this show up in conversations? So the activities that I showed before, and I do so many activities, to be honest with you. I'm just scratching the surface here, but these are the ones that I feel that students enjoy the most. And in case you're one, can't see the chat now, but in case you're wondering, I still do like the blue kids and I still do like the little games, but I like these activities because they garner a deeper connection like with the words. And so yeah. So just some examples of I make sure that the vocabulary is sort of like that connective tissue throughout everything. So in our paired conversations, I may give students, I may put two words on the board, or sorry, not on the board. I do it in my projector. I have two vocabulary words, and I'll say student A, student B. So student A, I'll put the timer on. Say everything that's related to this word, and it can be related to the show, related to the story, whatever, related to your personal life. And it really kind of it gets them to thinking, and it's really sort of wrapping their lives around what we're learning. The anticipatory sets, campanazos, and the formatives, and the short readings or text. I do like writing little stories, but again, like you can use ChatGPT. Like I think that's a really great option, especially if you are not the story writing type person. If you want to do something really quick, you want to add some vocabulary, you can totally do that. And of course, they're in the summatives. The other thing that I want to talk about, or just like a side note, is I do purposely try to sprinkle our little small talks with like these vocabulary and structures as well, because I want the students to I want to constantly help them to make connections. So I'm going to show you an example from my level 5 class. And just to kind of prep, we are doing a series as well. So I'm doing Altamar with level 4, and I'm doing El Internado with level 5, which is my dual credit class. El Internado, I wanted to just do like little episodes, but it's so addictive that I ended up just kind of creating a little bit of a curriculum around it. And now students have to talk about the themes present in the show, and they have to give examples. And this activity that you're going to see is right for go around class, go around class and talk to two students about their themes and give examples. And the goal was, they did have sort of an outline. The goal was to not depend on their outline. It was just to kind of just speak naturally, see how much they remember. So this is another little activity that I do. It's called 3-2-1. So like you go around, you talk to 3 students, and the first time you talk to a student, you can use your notes. The second time you rely less on your notes. The last time you don't use notes at all, okay? So I am going to show you the result, and you're gonna hear very specific vocabulary words. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So let's see. Okay, sorry. Okay, as soon as I go there, it is gonna play. Let me just say, you see me because I don't film I gotta, I'll film me or film like a piece of paper or whatever, just so you can hear it. So that's why you're looking at me. All right, here we go.
Tiene dos triángulos de amor. Uno de Héctor, Elsa y María, y un otro triángulo de Carolina, Marcos y Iván. Los dos relaciones tienen tóxicas personas. Un primero ejemplo es el triángulo de Héctor, Elsa y María. Elsa es una persona muy horrible. Ella es una casa fortuna.
Casa Fortuna.
Sí. Ella está casada con Héctor y ella piensa Héctor es una persona rica. Y,
Okay. So, few little things I want to point out that I guess I did talk about too, but it didn't really is not too important within the scope of the presentation. Is that some of the, even though we have our like target vocabulary, I do have sort of this list of like vocabulary that we learn on the fly, and these are words that just naturally, as we're doing our small talk and kids are like, how do you say gold digger? How do you say player? They want to use this vocabulary. So I normally have like a little short list, and I'll like put it on the board. And I have dreamt about, doing something additional with those words, but I have students actually remembered the word as he's talking about this person from the show. He's like, oh, this girl is a gold digger because, and he gives a justification later. He, talks about it. I don't agree with him, but understand why, came to this conclusion. But some unit specific vocabulary that they use, that he used was triángulos de amor, because they do have to talk about like what are the sort of like relationships and connections amongst the characters. Personas tóxicas, that was one of the themes that they have to talk about for their summative. They have to talk about it and then they're going to write about it. And what I like about pairing those activities is that they're using the same vocabulary. And when we move on to the next unit, they still have like that vocabulary and it's just recycling and compounding with the new stuff that they're learning. And then, we talked about, her being married. This student in particular, I had him last year and he had lots of issues with subject verb agreement and, now an adjective agreement. And now I just see like within the first couple months of being in class, he has improved so much. So super, super proud of him. We'll take questions in just a second. So that is pretty much that's pretty much everything in a nutshell. Some of the vocabulary activities that I do, with my class, and just making sure that they have sort of multiple purposes, and not just for learning, but like moving around for, collaborating. If you're interested in the handouts, they are included. Her name? Whoever reached out to me, I'll talk to them about getting getting this slide deck to you all. But you have the vocabulary handout, Media Naranja activity. If you're interested in any of my novels that are at Teachers Discovery, you have links for that. You have links for all of these. And then if you're interested in short stories that also combine, that contextualize vocabulary, get right now. Oh, are there any questions? Let me put my camera on.
We do have a few, mostly seems to be about getting the slide deck and your documents there. So if you get that over to Marie, everyone, we will have that along with the recorded version of this presentation on the website. And that'll get sent out in an email to everybody, letting you know it's available if you've registered here. So you should have that usually about a week after the presentation.
Okay, I'm just seeing how to stop to. All right. Okay. Great, great, great. Yeah, okay. So it was about the slide deck. Yes, I will definitely make sure that I share that slide deck. And again, a lot of the stuff is, you can adapt to your own class. You can adapt to sort of your own style. I always think that that's kind of what I do, but I really hope that it's been useful, that you learned a few extra things, or at least, got reinforced like, oh, yeah, I used to do that activity. Let me start doing that again. That happens when I go to presentations. I'm always like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that, So, but yeah, really nice to be here with you guys. I'm gonna just check the chat. Okay, I see Rosanna. Hosanna, right? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Oh my gosh, that's one of this. I love, 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 love these things. Um, okay, so all right. Is there anything else? Let's see.
I'd
Greetings.
like to ask
Everyone.
2 questions if
Sure.
I could.
Go ahead.
Okay, so with your Media Naranja activity, I guess I was still wondering, how do they find their Media Naranja exactly? Like, I understand the
Okay.
activity where they do the synonym and the antonym and then they create their sentence, but then how do they
Right.
find the person
Okay, so
that
what
they
I
should match
forgot
up
to
with?
mention, actually, yeah, so you know what? That's a good question. Okay, so let me just correct something, and I'm going to correct on the slide. So you have the 15 words in the target language, and then you have the 15 words in English. So what they're going to do, so this would be like after they've like actually, had some, let's say that, you gave them like a third day, you have them do like, media naranja. So I'll give a student, let's say that I'll give them a word that says libro, okay? And then they'll have give another student book. So as they're walking around class, they're looking for like the person with libro is looking for book. And then they sit down. Maybe that's not a good one for like antonyms, antonyms and synonyms, but whatever the word is, they sit down together and then they look up a synonym, antonym, and then they write like a definition for the word. And then they collaboratively they write like a sentence and then they
So
share it out.
someone is writing in Spanish and the other person is writing in English?
No. What do you mean?
Because you said you give them 15 words in Spanish and then 15 words in English, right?
Well, okay, that's right. That's for the class. So I'm distributing all of those. So there's 15 kids in the class with English words, and then there's 15 kids in the class with the same exact word but in Spanish.
Okay. But then I guess when they're trying to find their partner, what are they going off of? Because each of them is writing a synonym and an antonym, correct?
No. Okay. So here, hold on. Let me just give me 1 second. Hold on. Okay. So let's see. I'm trying to think of a word that we're using right now. I'm gonna put Casa Fortunas. Just because. Oh, how about this? I'll do amor. Okay, so I have amor here. And then amor in Spanish, in English is love. So okay, you see my two words, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I have love, and then you have amor, okay? So we're walking around class. I don't know you have amor. You don't know. So we're walking around, we're looking at everyone's word. I'm looking for you. I'm looking for amor. You're looking for love. And then we find each other. Okay. So
Okay.
once we find each other, we sit down. And then that activity, the media nada.
Oh, okay. And then they do
Aha.
that activity
And
that you
then
had on
this
the
is the activity. So you and I, mi amor, you and I, we sit down and we work on that one little sheet together. So
Okay.
one person could write, they work on, the way I like to do it is I have them work on the definition together because like language is about negotiation, right? So they can look on word reference to kind of get started, but they're writing the definition together and they're like, okay, I think we should use this word or that word. One person could do synonym, one person could do antonym, okay? And then they're going to actually collaborate and write a sentence using that word. And if it's part of a unit that we're doing, like if we're reading a book, then they're going to talk about, el amor entre los personajes, right? Love amongst the characters or whatever. So that's the part that maybe I didn't explain, that they're going to sit down and they're going to work on that thing together. Now, you can do that individually too. You can just pretty much give students, you can give them a word and have them do that by themselves. If you have a class that is like they cannot work together, like I have a class, I have 5 classes, but one of my classes, they have a hard time getting, when they get up out of their seats, they don't want to go back. So for them, I may do something like that individually. But that's kind of the idea. So whatever, you have your words, you have 15 in English or English, and then whatever the target language is.
Awesome. I didn't realize, I thought they were like all doing the synonym, antonym. I thought they were doing that and then finding their media naranja, and I was trying to make the connection. So this is awesome.
Oh,
okay.
No. Oh,
Okay.
and also, I was remiss to mention, when they find their media naranja, they actually shout. They say, "Yo encontré a mi media naranja!" Like, I found my soulmate. So that's another little fun thing. Again, depending on if the class can handle it.
Okay, and my other question was, for like the one activity that you had that you said was more of like a PQA, where you're like recycling target vocabulary. Yes. And also like even like the Twitter activity where you had those questions where you were like targeting like the present perfect, I think it was. When they're doing those activities, do you like, what's your like how do you do it exactly? Like what's like, do you have them work on it individually? Do you have them work on it in pairs? Or like, I guess I'm wondering like how you go about giving them the time to do the actual activity.
Okay, so I mean, I have a few different ways of doing it, and honestly, it depends on the class. What I like to do with most of the activities is I like for kids to do it individually first, and this is why. I want them to know what their weaknesses and what their strengths are, because sometimes when they work with people too quickly, if the other person kind of has the upper hand and then they don't know something, then they're not going to advocate and they're going to just kind of go along with, and that's not going to be a learning experience for them. So what I like to do is I like to have the students work individually first, and then they get together before we kind of review as a class. They get together and then they kind of compare and say like why or why not. And that is actually something that that's something that I've been doing a little bit more frequently now. And I'm hearing, like, that book, Making Learning Visible, like I'm hearing kids talk like, no, it's not like this because of that. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like that reciprocal learning, I guess. So that's how I do it. I try to provide them with a model first, so I'll do a model in the class. And as I'm modeling whatever it is, so I'll have a question, maybe like not one of those questions, but maybe I'll just write a different question on the board just to model the grammar. And as I'm modeling, I'm asking them questions. So I don't ever just write something on the board and say, okay, class, this is how you do it. I'm like, wait, what do I use now? Why do I use that? Why can't I just do this? So they actually have to pay attention when I'm at the board. And they also have to, like, even in the example, they have to use critical thinking. They're like, oh, wait, so so I have them do it individually and then together.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Thank you for your questions. All right, I'm still looking. If you have a question that you want to ask, feel free to unmute and ask. Let's see, Lorena. I don't know if Lorena's still here. Yes, it is.
Hello.
Hello.
This is
Hi.
Adriana from Canada.
Hi, Adriana.
I have been looking at your books and I am interested in buying some, but I don't know where is the website that is the easiest to buy them that I can find in Canadian dollars.
Oh, do you have access to, well, I guess a few. Do you have access to Amazon?
Yeah, are they on Amazon?
Yeah, they're on Amazon. Yeah, they're on Amazon. They're Teachers Discovery. So if you have access to Teachers Discovery, which is like the parent company of Voces, Amazon Teachers Discovery, also Command Performance. Let me see if I can. Hold on.
Because
Let me see.
is teacher when I go to Teacher Discovery, are those prices in American or Canadian?
Oh, you know what? I'm not sure, but you know what? I'll give you the Amazon link because I think that would probably be, that would convert like right away.
Okay.
I think,
Because I am
yeah,
also on Bryce Headstrom.
yes, they're at Bryce, yeah.
But that would be
Yeah.
American prices, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let me
So the
I'm
easier
looking for the
way,
link.
because I saw some books on Voices and they have better prices if you buy 25 o 10 para tener mejor precio, ¿dónde sería comprarlos?
Yeah. Well, so there are certain books that I have that are only through Voces, which the new book, Amaya Visita Mexico, that one is only through Voces, but most of them are on Amazon and at Bryce and in Teachers Discovery. What's your email? You want to put out here? I can email you options. You want to write your email
perfect.
in the chat? Yeah.
Sure.
And then I'll put my email just in case anyone had any other questions.
I sent you a message on.
Okay, I got it, Adriana. I got your email. I'm writing it down now. Franklin. Okay. All right. Thank you, Adriana. I'll follow up with some information, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
Canada.
Alicia,
Right,
what would be the popular readers for level 2 and level 3? The ones the students truly.
Okay, so you're talking about the ones that I've gotten a lot of great feedback from teachers and students for level 2 and 3.
Yes.
Is that where you're at?
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
so for level 3, there are a few, but the one that's not in a so the ones that I have level 3, most of them are like in a series. Even though you can read them individually, they're very popular, but there is one that's not in a series that has been consistently popular since it's been out. And it is El Escape. And it is it's like action, thriller, like it really is a page turner. That's probably my favorite book to reread. It's kind of adrenaline pumping. Let me see. Do you go through Teachers Discovery? Like what bookshop do you use?
Teachers
Oh,
Discovery.
Las Apariencias. Teachers Discovery. Okay, I agree with me. That one's a lot of drama. So depending on what you want, if you want action thriller, drama, then I like Escape. Las Apariencias, that's like really, yes, that is lots of, thank you, Anit, that's true. Lots of drama. It's a thriller, but it's also a lot of drama.
Would you be able to tell us what is the grammar structure of those books? Because are they in the past tense or subjunctive?
All the upper levels are in the past. Yeah, the upper levels, they're all in the past tense. Yeah, the ones that are lower level are mostly present, but the upper level past tense, and they cycle through, I would say mostly like preterite, preterite imperfect, past perfect. There are some subjunctive, like, past subjunctive in some of the level 3 books. Not a lot, but you kind of can't like avoid it, if you want to keep it as natural as possible. But there are glossaries, and there are teaching materials that actually come with the book. So, and Enid, who's
And
here, has helped me with.
what about Zona de, I was looking at Zona de
Oh,
Amigos,
Zona de
something like.
Amigos. Zona de Amigos, that one it's past tense, but it's mostly like preterite and imperfect. That one is past tense. Yeah, that's a good one
So
too.
that
That's
one
a
is
really
easier than escape.
Oh, that one's much easier. Yes, that one. I think Zona de Amigos. I would even probably use that for like a late level 2, but I think the topic is more like a level 3 because it's like friends, kind of like not falling in love,
Okay.
but thinking that maybe there could be more. And I think like level 2 kids would be so squirmish, but yeah, I think level 3, level 4, like topic wise, but it is easier than El Escape, much easier. Oh, thank you, Rosana. Yes, Las Sombras is another good one. Oh, recommended for 5th grade. I would say 5th grade here. I'll write in 5th grade. What has been very popular for 5th grade is I have a story. Oh, what's the name of it? It's called Feliz Cumpleaños. And it's a story about Feliz Cumpleaños, El Partido. It's a story about a student who is just having a really rough birthday, and he's dealing with a bully, and they kind of settle the score on the soccer field. So that one, I know, in my mind, when I kind of created it, I thought it would be good for I read it created it when I was with my freshmen, but a lot of teachers like 5th, 6th, 7th, those like the middle school, they really like that book. So yes. For level 2. Oh, El Portal. Thank you. Yes, Miriam. That is, yeah. Okay. I don't want to sound biased. But yes, that is a good book. Let me just say, Miriam, that book, it took me 3 years to write, and I had to rewrite it. And that's my connection with that book. El Portal is good for level 2, so I'll put it here. I wish I had, well, I'm going to send, all these are going to be in the materials that you guys are going to.
That one is dear to my heart because it touches on Venezuela.
Yes. I worked with the actual a reporter from Venezuela working on that book.
Yeah.
I work with the women. Yes. So yeah, and I love the crossover too. I like the time travel, the whole like astrophysics, aspect of it, because I'm obsessed with science and technology, but I'm not a techie person. It's so weird.
Yeah,
All right.
it's great.
Okay. Guys, thank you. Oh no, I was sorry, Miriam. I was talking to. There were so many people in the chat. Okay, so for level 2, a few options that have been popular. Which one is Bella Mentira, which is the sequel to La Clase de Confesiones. Sequel to La Clase de Confesiones, and then level 2. Also, I'm going to just list all the ones for level 2. So Zona de Amigos. Zona de Amigos is technically level 2. El Mensaje. La Obsesión Digital. I think that's a solid level 2. Digital. And La Pasajera Misteriosa. That one may be kind of a tearjerker. La Pasajera Misteriosa. That may be, it's a good book with life lessons for kids, especially about being grateful for their parents. But it incorporates like traveling and meeting people, and it centers around a kid who his parents got divorced, and he kind of like blamed his mom for everything. So it was like very, very mean to his mom. He was just going through a lot, and he meets a person his age, and then an older woman who are just very wise, and just helps him to like rethink some of his life's decisions. So that's a pretty like I think that book is really good for like life lessons. And I know the kid is from Chicago. He plays basketball. It's a lot of things in there about identity as well, because he's from Chicago. He's African American, but he doesn't play basketball well, so he gets like bullied for that. Just a lot of nice little themes that I think kids, no matter the age, no matter the race, culture, they could relate to. So, all right.
Y
Well,
el
thank you
mensaje,
all.
¿de qué es el mensaje?
Oh,
What
el
is
mensaje.
el mensaje?
El mensaje. Okay, so that book is about, it's a kid who he gets like a text message in class and pretty much just makes his, una película, in his head and does all this like kind of crazy stuff. He gets a message and then he just goes off the deep end, and then later he kind of like he realizes that he like shouldn't have his phone in class. He misread, he assumed. So it's kind of like a funny story. Like it's a story about technology and students, like their over reliance on technology, and how a lot of times with technology we don't see the whole story. That's kind of what that story is about.
And for level
Adriana,
1, what do you recommend?
Okay, can you repeat that?
For level 1, only in present tense.
Okay, for level 1, the one that has been very popular is La Clase de Confesiones.
Okay.
Yeah.
La clase de
Level 1.
confesiones. Okay.
Yeah, and I will see. Let me check your email just to be sure. So it's Adriana. Okay, punto Franklin. Franklin.
Yes.
Is there another period after Franklin?
No period.
Okay. Okay. At ocdsb.ca.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And I sent you an Instagram message yesterday.
Oh, you know what? I haven't checked my Instagram, but I will. Oh, perfect. Okay, good. So you reached out to me on Instagram.
You could send me the message through there.
That's what I'll do. Okay, that is perfect. Okay, thank you. Oh, hello from Nepal. Awesome. Awesome. What is VN? Oh, that the book related to Venezuela is called El Portal. El Portal. That one is actually at Wayside. El Portal. A book related to Venezuela, and it's at Wayside. I'm going to put my email in the chat again. So if you guys have any questions, you can just, even if you want to send me an email and just say like, hey, can you send me a list of this? I heard this, whatever it is, just send me an email. So that way, and I'm pretty good. I'll respond within, well, this is finals week, so give me a few days to respond. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, well, you guys have a restful night. Again, my email is in the chat if you need to reach out. Gracias. Maria, you probably need to talk to, is Andrew still here?
Yep, I'm still here. I was about to jump in there.
Okay.
Maria, yes, we can provide, I'm sorry, go ahead, AC.
No, go ahead. No, I'm done.
Okay. We will provide certificates of attendance after the meeting's closed here. If you don't get something in the next day or two, just email us over at info@vocesdigital.com, and then we'll follow up and make sure you get that for your attendance here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Miss Quintero, no veo el correo que usted puso en el chat.
Ok, ¿qué pasó con el correo?
No lo estoy viendo en el chat.
Ok, lo voy a poner de nuevo.
Ok, gracias. ¿O es a Quintero Books? No.
Sí, es profesora Quintero, @gmail.
Ok, no
Lo
es.
puedo poner ahora mismo.
Ok, gracias.
Do the books come with a teacher's guide by any chance? Any of the books?
Yeah, so if you buy like a class set, I can arrange for you to get a teacher's guide.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I personally use Voces in my classroom, but I know like I forget the name of the novel, but it's about it takes place in Colombia, and I think it was a
Oh, El
girl.
Último Viaje.
Yes, that one. I was going to do that one a few years ago, but like in actual, it's like digital in Voces, but there's not a guide in
Oh.
there. So I didn't know
Oh,
like,
okay. There is a guy. There is send me an email. I can send you the link to the guide for that.
okay, perfect. Thank you.
No problem.
ACE, the prices in Voces is American, the prices.
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they
Okay.
have some places they have the Canadian price side, but normally I haven't. I know, yeah. I know when you go on Amazon, depending on where you go, it'll
Yeah,
show.
but Amazon, I see the prices, but there are no deals. Like if you buy 25 books, they give you a
Oh
better
yeah, there
price.
are deals.
In Amazon?
Hold on, let me hold on. I just saw one with, okay, I don't know about everybody else's book, but I know that here, I'm gonna put this in a link, not the link, the chat. So I did see with this, they may have this with other, I saw like you buy 10 and they give you like a discount. This is
¿Estás
Amaya
hablando de
Visita
Amazon?
Mexico. This is just an example. I don't know if you're referring to, I think they may do this with other books too, with Voces. De nada, Yolanda.
Yo tengo una pregunta.
Sí.
Yo trabajo con niños de cuarto grado, quinto, sexto y séptimo.
Ujú.
¿Qué currículo recomienda para trabajar con estos grados? Que
La
serían,
verdad es que yo estoy estudiando en high school y no tengo mucha recomendación para eso, pero yo sí tengo una amiga, yo tengo enseñando estos niveles y si usted me manda un email, yo puedo poner la en
sí,
contacto con ellas. Una se llama Rocío Jacobi,
sí.
ella está, sí,
Ah,
sí, pero yo, la verdad es que yo no enseño esos niveles ya no, hace mucho tiempo.
Oh, oh, no. Estoy
Sí,
escribiendo mi correo ahora mismo.
ok,
Si usted me pudiera hacer favor.
ok, bueno.
Nombre es Hermelinda.
Ok, Hermelinda, como la ex esposa de Carlos Vives.
¿Oh, sí?
Sí, sí. La
Ah,
boricua, yo creo que se llamaba así. Ok, voy a...
Hermelinda. Oh, yo soy de México.
Oh, ok. Ok, a ver. Ok, Hermelinda, yo tengo... A ver. Ok, voy a poner el email ahora para que no se me olvide. Ok,
Ujú.
a ver.
Por favor.
Ok,
Ok,
ok.
gracias. Hasta
De
luego.
nada.
Entonces, que usted recomienda para esos grados la fiesta, lo
Oh,
puedo
feliz
encontrar.
cumpleaños. Yo creo que
Oh,
para
feliz
el 4
cumpleaños.
tal vez no. Tal vez el quinto o el sexto grado. Para 4 no creo que sea, bueno, no es inapropiado, pero yo creo que los temas de pronto superen a como los chicos de ese
Sí,
nivel.
sí,
Sí,
entiendo.
sí,
Entonces, como
pero yo
para
ya tengo
grado sexto.
y puedo ponerla en contacto con una persona que está un poquito más capacitada para ayudarla, porque la verdad es que con los peques no tengo ni idea.
Está bien. Muchísimas gracias, se lo agradezco.
Sí, a ver, a la orden. Ok, voy a poner mi email una vez más para que cualquier persona que tenga pregunta, una consulta, que me puede mandar un emailcito. A ver. Y así puedo contestar preguntas Sí, porque ahora de pronto, ahora yo tengo el cerebro un poquito frito. No se me viene la palabra, las ideas, ¿no? Pero con mucho gusto puedo colaborar con ustedes a través de email y podemos seguir hablando.
Sí, muchas gracias.
De nada.
Bueno, gracias por la sugerencia de los libros, por todo lo que nos ha guiado. Me gustaron sus estrategias. Pienso, pues
Gracias.
nada, utilizarlas en español 2, ya que tengo pues unos niveles diferentes, muchos estudiantes pues que están aprendiendo el idioma, otros que lo saben, pero que no lo quieren hablar, entonces hay que motivarlos a todos. Ok,
Sí, de acuerdo. De acuerdo.
gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. Adiós. Hasta luego.
Adiós. ¿De casualidad va a haber copia del video?
Thank you everyone for attending. I think we're all set now, so you all have a good night.
Excuse me, there will be
Oh.
a copy of the webinar?
Yeah,
A
we will be
video?
uploading the recording. It usually takes us a while to get it up. It'll be probably about a week, and you should be getting an email once it's uploaded since you've registered here, okay?
Okay. Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Have a good night.
Good night.